Hey Jalen, how's it going?
So good to hear from you. How's the family doing?
Well, everything is great except for we are moving out of Kansas City.
Oh my gosh, why are you moving out of Kansas City? It's such a great place to live.
Well, let me tell you.
So I'm going to give you the top 10 reasons why people are leaving Kansas City. And if you stick around until the end, I'm going to chime in with the craziest reason I've ever heard of anybody leaving Kansas City. Reason number one has to be the crime. If you didn't know, 2023 was Kansas City's most deadly year on record. There were more homicides here than in any point in our history, and that's a huge negative for our city. I know that the city is trying to clean this up, but they are experiencing a shortage of police officers. They have a shortage of about 300, maybe even a little bit more than 300 police officers here in Kansas City. So if you're looking to move in and you want to be a police officer here, you have a job opening if you want to do that. However, there is a lot of gun crime here in Kansas City. I have to tell you that this past New Year's, we were kept up. You know, at midnight, they start the fireworks, and a lot of people start fireworks in the neighborhood. But scattered between the fireworks, we definitely know we heard gunshots. In the neighborhood where we live, it's not necessarily the best neighborhood in terms of crimes, just crime statistics and based on our experience. We love our neighborhood here, but New Year's Eve, New Year's night, that was definitely a crazy time. It kind of sounded like a war zone. People started, setting off fireworks and shooting probably right around midnight and didn't stop until about 3:30. So there are a lot of people that, as I'm reading online forums, they write things like, I've been seeing crime in Kansas City worse than when I was living in New York City. Now, I know this is just a story that somebody is telling about living in Kansas City, but one thing you can't deny is if on record 2023 is our highest crime year yet, crime is a huge negative here in Kansas City, and one of the reasons why people are leaving Kansas City. Reason number two why people are leaving Kansas City, and that is our public school system. Now, I'll have to tell you, with all of these reasons, depending on where you move to Kansas City, it's not applicable to all of the areas here in the Kansas City metro. Now, if you go to certain public school systems like in Johnson County, the Blue Valley public school system, even the North Kansas City public school system, those places are fantastic areas to live and fantastic areas to raise your children. However, if you don't know where you're moving into, especially if you're moving into Kansas City proper, you may end up in a very dysfunctional and low-graded school system. Let me just read you a stat that's easily searchable on Google. In Kansas City public schools, 20% of elementary students tested at or above the proficient level of reading, and 12% tested at or above that level for math. Needless to say, those are really not good for your children if you're looking to send them to Kansas City public schools. If you're looking to live in Jackson County, in the heart of Kansas City, what I would do if you're moving here is I would make sure you have the budget for a good private school, or at least some ways of schooling them alternatively. We live in the heart of Jackson County, and while there are many awesome things about living here, we homeschool our children for this same reason. That's not to say that we don't have hope that the public schools here will get better. I think they will. They're taking a lot of steps to improve these things. However, if you have school-age children right now, a lot of parents are not willing to wait for that change to come. Rather, they are pulling their kids and leaving Kansas City for a better school district. Either they're leaving Kansas City proper and moving to another place in the Kansas City metro, or they're leaving Kansas City in general and just moving out to a different location. Now, remember, if you stick around till the end, I'm going to chime in with the craziest reason that I've ever heard for somebody leaving Kansas City. But one of the things to know, like I said before, with all of these reasons, it is extremely localized, and you need a good real estate team. If you still need to consider moving here to Kansas City, you need a good real estate team to direct you to those great school areas or direct you to those lower crime areas. Give us a call, 816-4MOVE-KC. That's 816-466-8352. Call or text us anytime. We would be more than happy to facilitate your move here to Kansas City. Also, if you're one of the people that I'm talking about and you're leaving Kansas City, we would love to represent you as you sell your home here in Kansas City. We have done this for countless clients in the past, and we would love to do the same thing for you. 816-4-MOVE-KC is the best way to get a hold of us. Now, here's another school-related reason why people are moving out of Kansas City. It may not be an entire family moving out of Kansas City, but there are certainly a lot of college-age students moving out of Kansas City to go to different universities across the country. There are quite a few universities here in Kansas City. There's quite a few colleges here in Kansas City. However, none of them, I would say, are super highly ranked overall. A lot of them are solid schools. In fact, we have a lot of close friends that go to UMKC or have gone to UMKC. We live barely 5 minutes away from the campus, and it is a fantastic school according to them. However, for the super hyper ambitious college student, they're not necessarily going to have that at the top of their options. There's a lot better schools, especially on the coast. There's a lot better schools, even in Missouri. A lot of people leave Kansas City in order to go to Mizzou, leave Kansas City in order to go to KU, which is in Lawrence, which is an hour outside of Kansas City. Or a lot of people leave Kansas City in order to go to Manhattan, Kansas, and to go to K-State. All of those areas are a lot more popular than the universities that are located right in the heart of Kansas City, so you have a lot of people relocating to go to those schools out there. So with a lot of these students going off to colleges and universities, what I hear a lot from them is that they meet somebody. Maybe they move out to the coast and they go to a UCLA, or they go to an NYU, or even if they stay in state and they go to Mizzou, or K-State or KU, and they meet somebody and they get married and they fall in love with the city where they live in. Maybe they're in KU and they're like, you know what? I would love to build my family out here in Lawrence. I would love to have my life out here in Lawrence. It leads us to the other reason why people are leaving Kansas City, and that is they are leaving Kansas City in order to follow their kids. With people moving out of Kansas City, going to colleges, making roots in other places, you have their parents left here in Kansas City who are reaching retirement age and deciding, you know what? I want to be close to my kids and I want to be close to my grandkids. In the past 2 years, I've listed a ton of houses for people who are retiring and looking to move to different areas of the country because they've built a career here in Kansas City, they've raised a family here in Kansas City, and now their kids have left, they've, flown the coop as it were, and they're building families in other parts of the country, and they decided that it's best for me to be closer to my kids, to be closer to my grandkids, and they leave Kansas City for that reason. In fact, I have a client who his daughter went to NYU, his son went to FSU in Florida, and he decided he was going to move to one of the Carolinas in order to be kind of halfway in between them because Kansas City was just a little bit too far from both of his children as they were building lives in Florida and New York respectively. That's not an uncommon reason, and you know what? That's probably the only reason why we would leave Kansas City. If our kids, once they got older, decided that they wanted to settle down somewhere else in the country and they started having grandchildren, we would obviously sell our home here in Kansas City and move closer to them so that we could experience the joys of being a grandparent. Luckily, that's a long ways away, but that's one of the reasons why we would move out of Kansas City if presented to us. Reason number 5 people are moving out of Kansas City, and you know what? It's best if I take you outside for this one. Hey, what is up? I'm outside. The extreme heat and cold is something that drives people away from Kansas City. A lot of people say that, hey, we can't take it anymore. It gets too cold here during the winters. It gets too hot here during the summers. And they just decide that Kansas City is not for them. I'm outside right now. I had to bundle up a little bit because it was a little bit colder than anticipated. It's probably in the high 20s, 28 degrees is what I saw on my watch when I was looking. I would say that right now, because of the humidity, seems a little bit warmer than that. I'm cold, but I'm not freezing cold. But it does get a lot colder than this during the winter, and it also gets really hot during the summer too. So if you can't handle extreme fluctuations in weather, if you can't handle the extreme cold and the extreme warmth, it might be a reason for you to avoid Kansas City, but that is a reason why people don't want to live here anymore, is because they seek warmer climates, or they seek better climates or more consistent climates, because the Midwest can be kind of crazy. All right, just wanted to show you what a Kansas City winter is like. It's actually not as bad as it could be today, but that leads us to reason number 6 about why people leave Kansas City, and that is it is not a super exciting place to be necessarily. Now, it depends on you. If you really want a place where your kids can grow up in an affordable environment, in a kind of family-oriented environment, I think Kansas City is a wonderful place. However, if you're looking for like a coast, if you're looking for a lot of things to do late at night, if you're looking for, a lot of trendy nightlife, there's some things here in Kansas City, but it's definitely not the best city for that. I do have clients who are looking to move to Los Angeles, who are looking to move to different parts of Florida, who are looking to move to bigger cities where they can kind of feel the hustle and bustle a little bit more because they find that Kansas City is not the best for them. Along with this, a lot of single people sometimes leave Kansas City because they feel like the grass is greener elsewhere. They haven't met somebody here, they haven't gotten married here, and that ties into the fact that Kansas City was voted the worst city for singles. Again, I don't know how they achieve that metric. I don't know if they went around and talked to a whole bunch of lonely people on the streets that couldn't meet people and were unlucky in love. I don't know, again, how they come up with that. But Kansas City, it's out there that it is the worst city for dating and for singles. And so along with that, and not necessarily a ton of exciting things to do, then that leads to a recipe for people leaving Kansas City. Now, excitement is something that people choose, and obviously people want to live in an exciting area, but this next reason is not necessarily up to the person leaving, and that is aging parents. A lot of people who have moved here to Kansas City recently in the past 2 or 3 years are young families like myself who are looking to start a better, more economically friendly life here in a Midwest town where they can raise their kids, maybe have one parent working, one parent staying at home full time with the children, and all of that stuff. And a lot of us are coming from places like Los Angeles, where I'm from, and we have left our parents behind. My mom still lives in Los Angeles. My wife Emily's parents still live in Redding, California, which is not as high cost of living. And consistently, my mom has been saying, I wish that you would come back to Los Angeles. I miss you. I miss the kids. I miss the grandkids. One of the reasons why people are moving back or are moving out of Kansas City is to take care of aging parents. And I have had people who have moved here in the past 3 to 5 years have to say, look, we have to sell our house. We have to move back. My dad has Alzheimer's. My mom has dementia, so on and so forth. It's a really sad reality, but it's a true reality, especially when there's a lot of younger people here in Kansas City. Some people have to move to take care of their aging parents, and that's just a sad reality of why people leave Kansas City. Now, moving from that to something not nearly as sad is jobs. A lot of people leave Kansas City because they find the perfect job. I would say back in 2021, I helped at least 4 or 5 families move out of Kansas City because they were just offered a job that they simply could not refuse.
We'll make you an offer you can't refuse.
A lot of them were offered jobs in tech companies. A few of them actually were offered jobs in churches, and they wanted to move to become pastors there. And so they decided, hey, we're going to list our house here in Kansas City because we need to take this job. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. For one of my clients, they moved up to Boston, Massachusetts in order to pastor a church up there. And so that's not uncommon. While there are a lot of great jobs here in Kansas City, if you get a call and you're living here and you get a call saying, hey, this is the perfect job, this is an incredible job, would you move back here or would you move here to take this job? Chances are you're going to do it. Now, there is one job that if I was offered that job, I would move. And that is if some church in Monterey, California, our favorite place in the world, near Big Sur, right on the coast, if some church in Monterey, California called me to be their pastor, if you didn't know, I was a pastor for 10 years before I moved here to Kansas City and started working real estate. But if some church in Monterey, California called me and said, hey, we want you to be our pastor, we're going to pay you $150,000 or $200,000 a year to do that, which is not realistic. The only reason I need to be paid that much is because living in Monterey is no joke. It's one of the highest cost of living areas in the entire country. But if they said, hey, we're going to give you this job and let you move to Monterey, I would seriously think about that. Other than that, we are staying put in Kansas City. We love it here. We love helping people relocate here. So again, give us a call if that's what you're thinking about doing, relocating here to Kansas City. But a lot of people do move out because they're offered a great job that they really can't refuse. Now, here's another reason why people move out of Kansas City, and that is increasing property taxes, especially in Jackson County. One of the things that you may not know if you're moving here to Kansas City or if you're not familiar with Kansas City is that Jackson County just recently cranked up the property taxes in their county. It's county by county. There's Clay County, there's Jackson County, Platte County. There's more counties than that, but those are the 3 main counties that make up the KC metro area. And in Jackson County, which is, I would say, kind of the urban part of Kansas City, to the suburbs in the Lee Summit side. But in Jackson County, the property taxes this past year have gotten cranked up a lot. I'll tell you a story about our neighbor down the street. I helped them buy their house back in 2021, and their property taxes almost tripled here in 2023. And that's a huge negative. Now, they were able to appeal it, and Jackson County was saying, okay, we're not going to raise your property taxes that much, because property taxes do raise with the increase of property, increase of the value of property at least, but to have them go up, you know, almost double, sometimes for some people triple, is crazy. There are a lot of people who had these crazy increases in property taxes, and it was extremely unusual. A lot of people were very upset over that, and that still hasn't settled yet, but it has caused a lot of people to kind of reassess and to say, I can't afford living here in Kansas City anymore, and they're selling their houses and they're moving out. The last reason why people are moving out of Kansas City, and remember, stay until the very end because I'm going to give you the craziest reason that I've ever heard. The last reason people are moving out of Kansas City is that it is getting too crowded for some people here. A lot of people who have lived in Kansas City for a really long time saw it go from a town with almost nothing to a booming, healthy town that is consistently growing all the time. There are a ton of new developments going on here, and for a lot of young people like me, that's really exciting. But if you can see, for a lot of older people who have lived here their whole lives in a quiet kind of Midwest town that was actually pretty small, they would say, we don't like this change. We don't like all these people moving in, and it's not because they don't like young people, or it's not because of race or anything nefarious like that. It's just that, hey, they've gotten used to this pace of life, and Kansas City doesn't provide it for them anymore because Kansas City has changed and is continuing to change. And so I've listed some houses for old people who have decided, hey, this hubbub in Kansas City is just not for me. I'm going to move to somewhere that's a lot quieter, a lot more calm. I really would like to not live in this craziness. So you stuck around to the very end. The craziest reason that I've ever heard of somebody leaving Kansas City was this. I called a listing agent for a home for a buyer that was interested in this home. We didn't end up buying this home, so I actually don't know if this listing agent was lying to me, but basically I called her and she picked up the phone and I said, hey, why is the seller selling this home? Because I always want to find out, right? As I'm representing you as a buyer, I always want to find out, why is the seller leaving the home? Is it because they have bad neighbors? Is it because there's disgruntled, whatever, right? And no joke, this listing agent picks up the phone and she says this. Well, the seller is leaving their home because their house is haunted and they're going to move in with their parents. I don't know if that was true. We didn't end up buying the house. I would have loved if we would have made an offer on that house because I love the, paranormal and that kind of crazy stuff. So I would have loved to have gone back and see if there was something crazy going on at the house. But luckily my clients did not buy it. But that's the craziest reason I've ever heard for somebody leaving Kansas City.